Hello, friends. Welcome to the Cold War Prepper. And tonight's the Wednesday night. I'm trying to get this set for we have a bunch of interviews. I like getting other people's opinions and not being stuck with just mine. Forgive me. Gosh, too many operations down my esophagus and the throat is just, and voice box is just going away. Hello, Scott Hummer. Thank you for being here, sir. You were the first one here. Hello, Tofu. Gosh, it's always great. Just, thank you so much for everything you do as far as being a moderator. And Scott, too, and Diana, too, and Little Lone Prepper. Gosh, I'm still using your bookmark there, Little Lone Prepper. So, always thinking about you. Teresa Buchanan, welcome. Good to see you. So let me just kind of preface this with a little bit. First off, I want to announce we decided last night. Hello, Scrapper. Good evening. We decided last night that we're going to, now that my 8 weeks of class is over, this wonderful class here. So this is what we just finished. The 7 Deadly Sins and 7 Lively Virtues. It's basically how to be a better person based off of Dante's Inferno. And but anyhow, that was an 8-week class, and so that ended Monday night. So we had I had originally had my interviews and my free for all on Monday nights, and we shifted that to Wednesday nights for the 8 weeks that class was going on. So tonight is going to be the last of the Wednesday night classes. We will be Wednesday night discussions, I should say. We will be returning back to Monday night, effective next Monday, the 19th. So let's talk about Monday, the 19th, just a little bit. In case you haven't noticed, I am so happy. I've gone over 5,000 subscribers. So Monday night, we're going to have a free-for-all discussion. Hello, Shenanigans. Welcome. And we're going to have a free-for-all, just discussion and giveaway. So I've got 5 prizes that we'll be giving away. So the least expensive of them is a brand new double-sided hockey puck axe, knife, honing, sharpening tool, and somebody will get that. Another one that they'll be getting, I can't open it. We're not allowed to show anything, knives or guns or anything while we're doing a live. They're afraid that if we do that, we might do something to ourselves and ruin the channel. So this is a survivor knife. It's basically a flat-bladed knife. It's using paracord for the handle. It's a fantastic little sharp survivor's knife made out of 1095 steel, just high carbon, great little knife. And so as we move up in the cost factor, I'll be giving away a nutrient survival nutrition ready to eat package. So this is a full day's worth of food. It has chocolate grain crunch. It has triple cheese macaroni, creamy chocolate shake, Southwestern medley, which is basically the breakfast. It's a kind of a scrambled eggs with everything in it. Okay, and then it has a chocolate crunch bar. It has a vitamin coffee and a liquid nutrient. And the liquid nutrient in this one is mixed berry. So that's kind of an entire day's worth of calories that you can put in your bug out bag. That's where I keep mine. Just fantastic gear. Hello, Jack. Welcome, Auslander Info. Just great to see you. And so that'll be number 4. And Jack, I'm sorry, but this has to be, I can only afford shipping in the US. Then the next highest value is going to be this $85 backpack. Notice that this is not camouflage or desert coyote tan or battleship gray or anything, because I believe in gray man. So that's going to be your gray man bag. And then probably the most expensive gift is going to be my collection of Stephen Smith's 6 books of the Stonemont series. And so this is going to be basically, I guess, the top prize. The reason I'm giving away the books, they're fantastic books. These are highlighted, tabbed, and everything else, so you can kind of get some of the key things out of them. But the reason that I'm giving away this set is because Stephen, as gracious as he is, sent me a complete set of autograph books. So because he sent me the complete set of autograph books, because we reviewed his books, we've had them here on the live. We want to bring them back, and so he gave me some books, and so I'm going to give away my books so that you can read them and enjoy them as well. Book number 7 is due out soon, and he told us either last night or a week ago that book number 7 is going to have a little bit more communications in it. So that's the 2 exciting things. Number 1, we're going back to Monday nights at 8 o'clock. Number 2, this coming Monday night, we're not interviewing anybody. We're not discussing anything in particular. We're going to have the giveaway and just a random BS session as we do that. So that's kind of where we are with that. So let's talk about the nuclear threat that we currently have. Hello, Butch Graves. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. Number 1, do me a favor, do a Google search on the effects of Hiroshima and the effect of Nagasaki. I want to get my there we go. Okay, I want to make sure I can see so that I don't know how to get picture in picture yet, but I do know how to go to a tab. So I'm going to be using some tabs in my MacBook here now that I've got it back, and you can see some of the stuff that I've got waiting here for you. Do a Google search on the effects of the blast on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those are the only 2 times that we have used a nuclear weapon in anger, okay, in wartime. 75% approximately of both populations survived at least 10 years after the attack. So, all these doom and gloom stories that it's going to be the end of the world, that we're going to be Armageddon and everything else, please understand, if the object of the enemy is to take over the resources of the country, then they're going to use airbursts and there will not be that much radioactive fallout. However, if their objective is to end the earth as we know it, then they're going to have ground bursts and they're going to have some fallout associated with that. And I'll show you how we can kind of take a look at that. So while the threat of nuclear war is a grave scenario, it's important to approach it calmly and with a little bit of investigation. And make sure you have a good mindset, a rational mindset. Don't get too emotional over this. Hangnail. While I'm going to give you a list of priorities that are my priorities. And actually, as I think about it, my number 10 priority should be my number 1 priority. But we'll talk about that at the end. This is not a comprehensive plan. It's basically a fill in the blanks. I'm going to give you some ideas. And then I would encourage you to do your own research, come up with your own scenarios, your own solutions for a lot of these questions that we're going to have. So here are my top 10 priorities as far as being able to survive a nuclear attack. Number 1, stay informed. Make sure you're getting good, updated information. So let me get into my tabs here, into my banners. Let me see, stay informed. So some of the channels that I like to watch because they give me good information. I really like SouthernPrepper1. Really good information from him. And he puts something out once a day. I also like MonkeyWerks, and he has a daily thing. He's looking at it from an air movement or aircraft movement perspective. And so he's going to give you different ideas on how it looks, looking at it from the Air Force perspective. I like Jason, the Angry Prepper. He also has another channel called The Angry Truth. Beware if you are offended by extremely foul language. He is a New Yorker. He uses the F word. I don't think he knows how to create a sentence without using the F word. If you can get past that, he has some brilliant ideas, and he really does share some really well thought out ideas on a lot of this information. But he's very visceral about it as well. Another one that I really, really like, this one's very highly produced. He's originally an Austinite. He's moved away. I think he's on the West Coast somewhere, is City Prepping, and that's Chris. I think he has a full crew doing all of his videography and setup and everything else. Extremely professional, very well thought out, very concise. He is a very level-headed individual in his presentation. And I think that's why a lot of people are really, really attracted to him. Another one is integrative preparedness. Of course, that's Stephen Smith. He puts out 1, 2, or 3 a day with his opinion on some of the news. And that's pretty good information to follow. I also really, really like PrepperDawg. He puts out 10 to 15-minute things, and he's only going to highlight the top 2 or 3 things that he likes. Some of you are going to disagree on this one. I understand that. This is Chicken Little. He has seen the last night that we'll ever see on the face of the earth for the last 12 years consecutively. Yes, and he is. He now even has his own photometer, and it's at about 85 out of 100 as far as nuclear devastation. But he does have a lot of great news, and he does present it so that you don't have to interpret it the way he does, but he does present a lot of great stuff. Another one that I really, really like is Alaska Prepper, Rudy. But now here's the thing with Rudy. Rudy has shifted his focus to where now he's primarily focused on an economic collapse. And so 90% of the stuff you're going to get from Rudy are going to be announcements about food shortages. They're going to be financial collapse warnings, and things that you should do to prepare for a financial collapse. So that's kind of where I get the majority of my news. I stay away from Fox. I stay away from CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC. If I go to a news channel, I'm going to go to Newsmax, and I don't do that often. But most of them are turned into, instead of being news stations, most of them are turning into commentary stations. The ones I'm finding are the best, that have the best, and probably going to be for you the best information, are going to be your local channels, because they're going to give you, get to know those people, because that's who you're going to need in case of an emergency. So speaking of which, number 2 is going to be your emergency communication plan. So, make sure you have a plan on how you're going to receive information, that critical information, and how you're going to report critical information. And so part of that may be getting yourself some communications equipment. So that could be anywhere from a Baofeng UV5R, a Yaesu YE6. It could be a Yaesu 8100, which is HF AM single sideband continuous wave. A lot of different solutions on what you can do as far as getting yourself communications. You can also get into GMRS, FRS, or CB, and they will give you a lot of information. Let me see here. Let me catch up. Hi, Starfleet Command. Welcome. Clarity Jane, 31. Welcome. Let me see. What do we have? Angry. So Teresa's agreeing with me that both Angry Prepper and Southern Prepper1 are great sources of news and interpretation. One Can Preppers. Okay, I'll have to write that one down. I have not seen that one, but thank you for the recommendation. One Can. Is that One Can or I Can? Prepper. So we've got agreement on both Canadian Prepper and Alaska Prepper being great channels. Thank you, but I try not to present problems. I try to present solutions, and they kind of give you a lot more of the news comments. But thank you for that compliment, Shenanigans. I appreciate it. Canadian Prepper does. I think he really does care. He really does care. So Manny, actually, Alaska Prepper just retired. He was a finance NCO in the Army and got assigned to Fort Richardson, Alaska, up in Fairbanks. I think that's Richardson, and retired, then got a job with civil service, and then finally, after something like 35 years total service, retired from that, so that now he's doing his thing as a prepper. So he has already been in the workforce over 35 years. And, consider if you know his life story, he came from, I believe it was Honduras, and, and got his citizenship the hard way, and ended up going to into the military for that. Teresa Buchanan says, yeah, that's Canadian Prepper is fear porn. So is FSS. That I'm not getting it right now. I'm sorry. Okay, NTD News. So I have to check that one too. NTD News. Thank you very much. Gosh, you guys are great. I get as much from you as you do from me. I hope I'm getting more from you, basically. Keep an eye on Damascus. Are you talking about the country, as far as things blowing up in the Middle East? Yes, I agree. This one kind of concerns me a little bit, but here's what, and you're absolutely right. So today we have our city has an interfaith alliance meeting. So representatives from each of the major churches and even a lot of the minor churches gets together once a month, and we say, how can we better serve the community? So I represent my church at this alliance meeting, and I always wear my hat. And so you see my hat as my logo. It's got Cold War. What does it say? I forget what it says. Cold War veteran. And then, it has the Army Security Agency up top and the Army Security Agency patch. And so we were talking, and one of the ladies said, if anybody had an interesting career and you'd like to give, kind of entice people to do that career and talk to our children during our vacation Bible school, I would really appreciate you coming and doing that. And I said, would they be interested in a retired Russian code breaker? And she go, oh yeah, so afterwards, this other guy comes up to me, he says, I thought you said you worked for NSA. Your hat says Army ASA, Army Security Agency. I said, well, if you put the ASA, the Air Force Security Service, and the Naval Security Group all in the same building, and then put a 3-star general in charge of it, it's called NSA, because it's a Department of Defense asset. It's not like CIA or FBI where it reports to another secretary. It reports to the Secretary of Defense. He goes, oh, he says, well, what do you think about the mishandled documents by the president, by Trump, not by the president? He says, what do you think about that? And I said, well, if he mishandled them, then I think he should pay the price. But I think he should pay the price that every other person who has mishandled information like that is paying. And they aren't even being investigated, let alone tried. And he looked at me, and it wasn't the answer he wanted to hear. And he said, well, he had a lot more. I said, no, that's not true. I said, the person who destroyed their BlackBerry because they commingled private information and government information on a government recorder, destroyed that, destruction of government property, had a server with higher classified stuff in her barn, and nothing was done to her. So why are we doing this over 5 or 6 documents that aren't even at that level of classification as what she had, or what the ex-vice president or the ex-senator had in his garage. And so I am all for, let's if we're going to try one, try them all. If we're going to convict one, convict them all, because they all did the same thing. So I'm just for equal punishment, and I'm for equal investigation. If he did something wrong, he did something wrong. Spank his hands, but spank his hands just as hard as you're spanking everybody else's. That's my political opinion for the night. And okay, so thank you, Little Lone Pepper, for that. For just straight up news, Al Jazeera. Yes, I have heard that. I occasionally will go to Mir, which is the Russian news, and I also go to TASS. But most people don't speak Russian, so I don't put those out. Oh, by the way, there's a channel, Life in Russia, and Alexei was talking today about he thinks that because of how Wagner Group has been doing their atrocities, that Russia is ripe for an insurrection right now, for a revolution, and he thinks that that may happen here very, very shortly. I would not be surprised either. I think the people are tired of losing their children, losing their youth, and just like in World War II, losing another generation for some unknown reason. And so I think that they're kind of a little bit upset with that. Hello, Don J. And let me see here. Full spectrum survival is good. Yes, I agree. I agree. Um, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. That if it wasn't political, we would have them all investigated. Um, let me see. Yes, it would. Actually, there was another law that was broken yesterday when the British flag was taken down at the Capitol, or the Capitol, or the White House, and replaced with the gay pride flag. We believe it or not, there is a law on what flags you can and can't fly at the Capitol. And can't fly the LGBTQ Pride Plus flag, whatever. But shenanigans. I was watching. I forget who it was. It might have been Canadian Prepper. It might have been. But anyhow, he showed a television interview, and the guy was talking about how they're threatening the U.S. with nuclear weapons. The guy's name was Yevgeny, which is the Russian form of Eugene, and his last name was Satanovsky, Satanovsky. So SKIY, that's kind of just makes it kind of an adjectival form of the noun. And then Satan off, the OV is a patronymic. So patronymic, everybody in Russia, for a middle name, what it is, even the women, have the first name of their father. So if my father's first name was Herman, so I would be Lev for Lee, Germanovich for Herman. And so you have this of is Ufsky becomes the male version of the patronymic. And so his name is Satanovsky, Satan, son of Satan. I thought, wow, that's unbelievable. Hello, Watchman. Um, I wholeheartedly agree with you there, Elsa. So let me tell you, we visited the neighbor Friday night, and she was having a hard time, and uh, identity theft. She has an autistic 35-year-old son at home, and things were really, really bad. And we sat and we talked with her and asked her what she needed, and we helped her out as much as we could. And then we gave her a list of people to call. And we said, now call this person. Maybe they might be able to help you find a job, and they might be able to help your son find a job. So she said, okay, you're the guys that pray the rosary, right? I said, yeah. She says, well, can I get one of those? I said, sure, bring it back. She says, can you bring me a Bible? I said, which one do you want? Do you want the one that was canonized in 325, or do you want the one that was shortened by Martin Luther in 1517? And she says, well, I don't understand. So I gave her the whole thing about the canonization of the Bible and how Luther deleted books from it. And Martin Luther, that is. And she said, well, I want the full Bible. I said, okay. So I ordered her a women's prayer Bible and for women's issues, and then delivered the rosary. And she says, gosh, you guys are miracle workers. My son and I both have jobs as a result of that phone call that you had me make, which is just great. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and it's just great how we've been able to help her. And so now she called today and asked if we could bring another rosary over for her son. So I have a feeling we'll be seeing her at church. I told her exactly where I sit every Sunday morning at 9:30. So I have a feeling she'll be joining me at church here very, very soon. um, I don't. Here's my personal opinion. I don't mind um, accepting. Okay, I can accept them. I'm not going to be prejudiced. I'm not going to be mean, derogatory, or anything else. Just don't push it. Don't force me to push it. Don't push it. Don't stick it in my face. I call them heterophobes, and so as long as we can agree that we aren't going to call each other names, I won't call you a heterophobe. You don't call me a homophobe. And then we can sit down. We can have lunch together. We can talk, but that doesn't mean you have to force me to promote your lifestyle. If you're going to force me to promote your lifestyle, then you should be promoting my lifestyle, if that makes any sense to anybody. Let me see. I wholeheartedly agree that is exactly what's going on. I think we are very, very close, James. I was watching God, Guns, and Family. Really great. He's a non-denominational Christian preacher out of Missouri, and he also talks an awful lot about guns. And he was talking today, his video today. It's a very short one. It's only like 7 minutes. He was talking about how the left is arming their extremists, and that they are basically forming an army out of self-defense, out of what they perceive as being the insurrection of January. And so they feel that they have to protect themselves against that, even though there was nothing there. So yeah, I have a feeling it's coming. I have a feeling that something drastic, I don't know whether it's going to be international. I don't know whether it's going to be national. I don't know if it's going to be natural. I don't know if it's going to be man-made, but I just have this sick feeling in my stomach that I really can't put my finger on it. Something's going to happen before the end of the summer. So you can go to Amazon and just do Catholic Bible. And if you do Catholic Bible, then you will have the 6 books of the Apocrypha that were taken out. You'll also have the additional writings of Daniel and Isaiah that Martin Luther took out. A lot of people don't realize it, but when he broke away from the Catholic Church, not only did he take out the 6 books of the Apocrypha, he took out some chapters of Daniel and Isaiah, but he also took out 6 chapters of the New Testament. So he took out Revelation, Jude, James, I think it's Hebrews. He took out 6 books. Those 6 books were brought back into the Protestant canon by John Wesley and John Calvin. So those two brought those books back in. The one that they really had problems with was James, because of the 2nd chapter of James. It says, "Faith without works is dead, being alone." He did not like that because he wanted to promote sola fide, which is by faith alone. Bear Independent is a fantastic channel. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. So let me see here if I can catch up. I doubt if I can. You guys are doing such a great job of chatting. Okay. I'll have to look that one up there, Mr. Watchman. Mark 10:18. I don't have that one memorized, but that's okay. When I come across a scripture in my daily readings that I really, really like, I always write that scripture in pink. So, here's my scripture today that I really, really liked. And then, of course, the catechism in a year that I'm doing, I do that in the light green, so I know which books, which chapters, paragraphs I've read in the catechism in a year. And then Epoch News is fantastic. You're absolutely right. I think they pronounce it epoch. I pronounce it epic. But let's see here. Well, remember, if you read John 6, okay, In John 6, Jesus specifically says, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you shall not be saved. So at the end, John 6, around 50, 52, 40 disciples left Jesus because they thought he was talking about cannibalism, because he specifically says, eat my flesh and drink my blood. And he says it several times. So he lost disciples because of that. And that's the exact same reason that Martin Luther left the Catholic Church, is because we have an altar. We believe that we transfigure the host into the body and blood of Christ, and that's what we consume at the altar every time we go to Mass. And Mass is basically from the Greek word missio, which means to send forth, to send people out. You go there, get the body of Christ, and you go out and you preach the word of God. And so that's the mission, or the Mass. And so there are a lot who don't believe that is possible to transform it, and then even by doing it, that you become a cannibal. So that became the theological basis of most of what Martin Luther disagreed with. So we say that the Protestants have basically replaced the altar with the pulpit. And that's kind of the easy way of defining the difference between the two. The Protestants do the Last Supper as a remembrance. We do it as a sacrifice at an altar, offering the body and blood back to Christ, and following Jesus's commands in Matthew, especially in John 6, and consuming his body and blood. Short catechism, how's that? Good for you. I wholeheartedly agree. Amen. You are so right, Watchman. We do what we can. We have faith and hope, and but to tell you 100% that I am going there is, I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I sure am avoiding trying to do the things that will get me the other direction, but I sure can't give you a 100% guarantee yet. I may have to spend a little bit of time in atonement before I get there, but I'll get there hopefully. Grateful Preps and Jay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much for listening to my little story there. Okay. So faith without works, faith is dead. It's a two-part. Yes. And the only place in the Bible where faith and works are mentioned together is in James 2. And I think that's specifically verse 22. It might be 24. Let me check here real quick. I believe it's specifically James 2:22. But I can grab that right here real quick. James 2, 24. I guess 22 or 24. It is 24. So, and this is the Revised Standard Translation. So it says, see how a person is justified by works and not by faith alone, not by faith alone. So that kind of contradicted everything that Martin Luther said. So that's why he threw out the book of James. Okay. So let me get back to my list here. We were on and got diverted there a little bit. Make sure you have emergency communications plans. Please do me a favor. This is a great exercise that just came out announced today. It's T-Rex. And so this is from AMRON, the American Radio Redoubt organization. And so they have a ham radio network, and it's also called the Channel 3 Project. So they are trying to get communications established throughout the entire United States on HF. And then you'll have a local reporting station. So for example, let's say I'm a reporting station here for the 10-county area in Williamson County and surrounding counties. And so now I receive the information on the HF radio from American Redoubt. And then once I get that, I can convert that information and read it either over FMRS or GRS or CB radio on channel 3. That's why it's called the Channel 3 Project. And I can communicate that information out to anybody locally who has the capability to listen to a channel 3 on any of those major devices. Of course, if you have an HF shortwave radio receiver, you can receive everything directly from the originator. But you won't be able to report up, but you'll be able to receive. So, think about how you're going to have your emergency communications. Get a hold of your local emergency authorities. Make sure you go to the FEMA website ahead of time, and that's ready.gov. Make sure you see what they have to offer. Get a contingency radio plan in place. Make sure you follow when you have your contingency. So everything you do, whether it be emergency radio, communications with your family, evacuation plans that we'll get into later, make sure you remember PACE, P-A-C-E. So you want to have a primary plan, you want to have an alternate plan, you want to have a contingency plan, and you want to have an emergency plan. So if any one fails, you can go to the next, okay? And in some cases, you might go to your primary and it's not working. You do your alternate, it's not working. You have to go to your contingency. It's not working as good as you want, so you go to your emergency. So, but you've got 4 different plans that you can use to get out of the situation you're currently in. Emergency supplies, I think we've harped about those, food, water, shelter, light, power, etc. Thank you, Grateful Preps. That's very, very kind of you. I don't know if you know it or not, but 60% of all of of everything I get on the channel. So your contribution, 30% goes to the local county food bank to help people who are not as fortunate as I am, and the other 30% goes to the St. Vincent de Paul Society, which I'm a member of. And so we go out and help people economically when they get behind on rent or power bills or anything like that. So we try to give that out to our neighbors who are in need. And that's how we work our faith. That's Matthew 25. Jesus said, when you've taken care of the least of these, you've taken care of me. So we have an obligation to take care of our fellow human beings. So you have contributed. 60% of what you've given will be given to those people who deserve it far more, or who need it, not deserve, but need it far more than I do. So thank you very, very much for that. Well, yeah, people can be very, very judgmental. I was talking with a friend, and we have really good talks. He says, and so I have another friend, Sharon, and Sharon's over in Thailand right now. She's a Presbyterian missionary. Her parents were missionaries in Thailand, and so she came to the States, and she became a EDD, a doctor of education, and she was in adult education. So she and I were both directors of training, different forms. She did management leadership training, and I did quality training. And so we were both training managers at Dell at the same time. We got to be really good friends. Then we both left Dell. She went to the seminary and became a minister. And so we would talk a lot. She told me that, as a Catholic, that I am in the religion of guilt, that Catholics feel guilty about everything. I said, no, you're wrong. I don't feel guilty about anything because I have confession. And so the act of reconciliation, I can go to God and I can say, hey, God, I made a boo-boo. I messed up. And I'm sorry. Forgive me. And so it's nice to know that we have that ability when we make a mistake, as long as you promise not to do it again, that we have the act of reconciliation. And that's one of those wonderful things about the church, is that I can actually go and get it off my mind and say, I made a big mistake and I'm sorry and I won't do it again. Well, read up on the rapture there, Auslander, Jack. That was actually a dream that a woman had in London in 1803, and that she researched the Bible, came up with one verse that supported her dream. It barely had any traction at all. It was finally made it in as a footnote to a commentary around the turn of the 20th century. and it did not have any traction at all. When I was in seminary in 1970, there was no mention of it at all. And then all of a sudden, Hal Lindsey came out with his book, and the late great Planet Earth, and that is when we had the rapture explosion. That's when people started talking about the rapture. So, and all of that was based off of his book, not off of Scripture. So, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he's really pro rapture. I said, okay, so tell me, which one is the second coming? Is it the rapture or is the second coming at the end? Because if you believe in the rapture, you believe in two second comings, and there can't be two second comings. That means there's a second and a third coming. But we're getting into theology now, and eschatology in particular, and that probably is not where we need to be on this. We need to be talking about how do we survive a nuclear attack. So let me see here. Okay, let's get back into this. So remember to get your shelter ready. So we talked a little bit about making sure you have plenty of supplies, food, water, first aid, medicine, all that kinds of stuff. Make sure you also have a shelter prepared. Prepare for both. Prepare for the possibility that there might be fallout. So you got to prepare for that. Prepare for the fact that there are going to be people scavenging. And remember, desperate people in desperate times do desperate things. And so you'd be surprised what people are willing to do if they believe you have food and they have a hungry child. So just be aware of that and make sure that your shelter is defensible. So it has to be defensible both against any objects that may be flying. It has to be defensible against fire. It has to be defensible against radioactive fallout. And it has to be defensible against desperate people. So make sure you take that into consideration as you're doing it. Make sure you have some evacuation plans and avoid high traffic. We have some Texas roads, and so you've got the multi-tiered system of highways. You have the interstate highway, then underneath the interstate highway, you have the U.S. highway system. Then underneath the U.S. highway system, we have the Texas or your state highway system, and then below that you have counties, and then below that you have cities, right? So you've got these 5 different levels. And then I guess private roads would be the one at the very bottom, dirt roads, private roads, whatever. You want to avoid the high traffic roads. What you're going to be here in Central Texas, we've got some state roads. As a matter of fact, Highway 440, they did an exposition on it back in the 70s. They called it the Highway of Death, but it comes down from Fort Hood to Georgetown, gets on Interstate 35 and goes down to Austin. And so a lot of the soldiers would go down and party with the UT students and get drunk, and then they drive back. And there's an abnormally high proportion of DWI deaths on Highway 440. So what Texas did was they renamed it after 6 minutes, did their expose on it. And it's you can't find Highway Texas 440 anymore. It is now Texas 195. So that's not the same highway that got all the bad news. But they also straightened it out a little bit because it was very curvy 2-lane Texas road. Now it's 4-lane divided highway. So it looks like an interstate the way it's designed now with overpasses and everything else. So I would stay away from that, even though it's considered a Texas road and not a U.S. highway or a freeway. Anything that's going to be a high traffic road, try to avoid it, because that's where you're going to have all your delays, roadblocks, angry people willing to fight and do desperate things. Just stay away from those. Make sure you have personal protection. I don't care what it is, whether it's a firearm or not. Like I said, I have to carry a cane, so I'm doing cane self-defense. There's actually cane fighting techniques, and I recommend that you consider that. There's a scriba, kali, cane fighting. There's bow fighting, which is staff fighting. There's all these different kinds of things where you can turn everyday objects into weapons. Of course, you have firearms and everything else, knife fighting. I've discovered, I took a knife fighting course, and I found out that with knife fighting, you don't slash, it's all stab. You want to have multiple stabs. Stabs are far harder to repair than is a cut. So let me see, which one is this? This is Oh, personal protection. Okay, so we're talking about personal protection. So along with that, make sure you have a PPE. This is a video I did right at the beginning of the current European crisis. And so what I did was I made a bag of personal protective equipment, and this is a video on how to do it. But I put, or my video on how I did it. I got a $1 poncho from Walmart. I got some booties from a paint shop. I got some nitrile gloves, the exam gloves that you probably have from the lockdown anyway, an N95 mask, some glasses, of course, the hood to the poncho, and then a triangular bandage to get all that off. So now everything's covered. My eyes with the glasses, my head with the hood, my face with the N95 mask, my body with the poncho, gloves, and the booties for my shoes. Now I have a personal protective equipment that I can keep in my car. It cost me less than $10 to put the whole thing together. I keep it in a 1-quart Ziploc bag. There's one for each passenger seat. So there's 4 in the pickup and 4 in the car, in case we have grandkids or anybody else with us at the time. And that becomes your personal protective equipment to protect you from fallout until you get home. So let's take a look at that video. Number 7 is comms plan for your entire family. Make sure then I put in here, remember PACE. So also where you're going to have your rally points, where you're going to get together in case something happens, where you're going to leave notes for each other. In one of the books that I'm reading right now, Locker 9, I forget the author's name, he instructs his daughter as she stops to find a mileage marker and write in a martial art pen, Sharpie, on the back of that with her initials, the date and time that she was there. So if necessary, he can retrace her roots and try to find her. That's a brilliant idea. I like that idea. I never thought of that. I've been doing this a long time. That was great. We've incorporated that into our family plan as well. Where are you going to meet? How do you leave notes? So that if everybody goes to the primary, but at different times, and people are feeling that they're not going to get together, they start going to the alternate. How do you leave a note? I'm going to the alternate. So that becomes extremely important. Let's get back up in here. And there's a reason for that. And I can tell you that even the Catholic Church is wrong about a lot of the things that they say about the Masonic Lodge. I was a 32nd degree Mason when I left the church. I left the church and went to seminary to become a Baptist minister. And for 40 years, I was a 32nd degree Mason. And I will tell you that a lot of the stuff that is being put out about Masons is abject false. How's that? The Masonry is, the Freemasons are a group of people dedicated to God and the preservation of his word in the Old Testament and New Testament. My wife had a nephew-in-law got out of the Marines on a hardship discharge and came to my house and sat in my easy chair and took over while we helped him find a job. He wanted to read a Bible, so I handed him my Masonic Bible. And you'd think that it would have burned his skin. It's the exact same Bible. It's a King James Bible. I mean, everything about Masonic, the only thing about Masonic is you don't tell people what you're doing. You take an obligation that there are things that you don't share. But everything in there is in the Bible. Same thing. I worked in NSA for 21 years. A lot of the things you hear about NSA is not true, but I can't tell you what we do or what we don't do. And so that leaves it open to where people can imagine what they want. There's a lot of false stuff about the Catholic Church. There's conspiracy theories out there galore. And if you want to believe them, all I can say is it proves to me your ability to discern if you're willing to believe all the falsities that are out there about things. So what does the G stand for in the Masonic symbol? God. What does the square? The square says that we're going to live an upright and square life. What does a triangle say? Triangle says that we're circumscribed to live within a certain parameter of decency and morality in our lives. So one of the common tools is the 24-hour ruler. which means that it can be divided into 3 parts: 8 hours for our normal vocation, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for the benefit of our family and our fellow man. Tell me how those are satanic. So a lot of the stuff you hear is totally false. I'm sorry, I get emotional about this because people say things. Mark Twain said it best. It's not what people know that gets them in trouble. It's what they think they know that just isn't so that gets them in trouble. Okay, let's keep on going. Revelation 18 is New York. Yes, most of the founding fathers were Masons, and so that because of that, there are a lot of things that are taken out of the Bible, and that expecting men to lead upright, honest lives. Our government is only as good as the men who are in it, and you see what we have now. And that's because we have gotten away from the traditions of what moral, upright, just people do. Okay. Well, I was a Shriner too. You check out there was a guy, the guy who thinks he knows everything about nuclear explosions and knows nothing. He's done 2 10-minute I Hate Lee videos when I talk about nuclear stuff, even though I was trained in the military and he has no knowledge. He even says in one of them that when there's a nuclear explosion, it creates heavy metals. And I mean, the guy just doesn't know anything. But he was trying to impress people. See, what he tries to do is he tries to impress people. So, and he was wearing a mock Shriner's fez. So in one of my videos, I have my Shriner's fez, and I explain this is a real Shriner's fez. This is how you can tell what it is. Why were the Shriners created? It's a U.S. thing, U.S. only. And the reason they were created was it was a bunch of Masons who went through the 32nd degree, and after they got through at the 32nd degree said, how can we benefit our country? So they decided that they would open and operate free of charge 14 burn and orthopedic centers for the good of children who could not afford to have burn treatments and orthopedic surgeries like spina bifida. And we could take care of their parents and them and provide them with free medical care. And that's the whole reason that the Shriners exist, is to fund those 14 hospitals throughout the United States. It's easier to convince somebody to lie than, yeah. Isn't that the truth? Okay. So back to the things here. So number 8, study the effects of radioactive fallout. So there's a couple things I want to do here. Let me see if I can get this done. I've got this here so I can watch it. Let's do a present. And I want to do share screen. And so screen sharing is easiest with 2 monitors. Got that. Share screen. And so here's one I want you to take a look at. If I can find it. It's nuke map. There we go. There it is. So I'm going to share the nuke map. So this is basically, you can see the up top, or can you? There you go. So basically what we have is this is nuclearsecrecy.com/nuke map/. And so what you can do is you can put in where you want the nuclear explosion to take place. And I've got it plugged in for the warhead over Randolph Air Force Base. And so this is the China's Dongfeng, which is the strongest opponent size nuclear warhead that there is. And this will show you the destruction if they use it as an airburst over Randolph Air Force Base. Now, what we can do is over here, I can change that from an airburst to a surface burst. And I want to see what the radioactive fallout pattern is. based upon prevailing winds, the average prevailing winds. So now when I do that detonation, it shows me the fallout pattern for a ground burst. So now when we take New Braunfels, here's Round Rock up here. So notice that now I'm in the fallout pattern for the prevailing winds of anything that might happen there. So let me get rid of this. And then go back to here. And I want to do a different one. So I'm going to get rid of this one, remove that one. And we're going to go to another share screen. Don't want to show you. Share screen. Okay, so the other one I want to show you is this one here. So this is Nuclear War Survival Skills 2023, the 2022 edition. Probably, in my personal opinion, the best book on the market as far as understanding nuclear stuff. So I have that tabbed and I will show that to you. So I'm going to stop that screen. And so here is that link for Nuclear Survival Skills. I bought it when I was in Field Station Augsburg, Germany in 1980 when it first came out. Look at that. Army and Air Force Exchange Service price tag of $8.95. And that was in 1980. So this is the original, the very first one that came out. We had an ANFLR-9 intercept antenna. We called that Ground Zero for a Soviet Scud. And so, nuclear survival skills, when you were at Ground Zero, we were the primary intelligence collection facility in Germany, or actually on the NATO border. So that was kind of interesting. And so, but anyhow, that's a fantastic book. You must get a copy of that for your library. And that'll help you study the overall effects of, okay, so where am I here? There we go. Okay, so personal preparedness, make sure you have, or financial preparedness, make sure you have some cash. I recommend you not carry anything larger than 20 because they might not have change. And as a result of reading Begovich's, Selko Begovich's book, I am trying to convert a lot of my gold and silver over into jewelry because that just makes more sense. It'll be more tradable than will a shiny, 4th ounce gold coin. And then number 10, I think is going to be the most important, and this is the one we got to take care of, and that is make sure that you get. The more prepared you are, the more comfortable you will be at adapting to the surrounding environment that we're going to have in a nuclear environment. So get prepared, get your mind prepared. Be aware of the fact that people around you are going to go crazy. Now, there's a time horizon between when the event happens and when people start reacting to the event. That little bit of time, it could be as little as 5 minutes, it could be as long as 2 days. People are going to say, wow, maybe this will fix itself. Maybe this isn't real. Maybe this is a dream. But they're going to be in a state of shock and they aren't going to be acting. That's your time to act. So if you're going to bug out while they're in that decision-making shock stage. If you're going to bug in or hunker down, make sure that you get everything ready during that shock phase so that people aren't focusing on you, but they're focusing on trying to adapt themselves mentally. Make sure that you're mentally prepared and that you have somebody to support you and you are willing and able to support somebody else mentally when it happens. So I want you to understand, these are not all inclusive. They are not, if you do these 10 things, it's not going to guarantee anything. They're starting points. These are some discussion points. These are some good planning points. There are a whole bunch of blanks that you've got to fill in for yourself. So let me catch up here with the comments. Okay. The mark of the beast, I imagine, is what you're talking about there, Jack. Uh, yeah, Manny, a good library is going to do you an awful lot of good. I'll do another video on my library, and I'll show you, walk you through it. You can, for an airburst, yes, and that's what's saved a lot of the surrounding areas. Same thing with the ground burst, I guess, because you're going to contain that inside the bowl. I don't know if anybody's watching it, but you know the caldera that Mount Vesuvius is a part of is acting up again, and if that happens, that's definitely going to take out Naples, Italy. So they're kind of under a volcano alert. Kilauea is acting up, and so that's they're under alert there. Then we also have Krakatoa. Uh, Actually, it's Anak Krakatoa, the child of Krakatoa, which is in between Java and Sumatra, and it's acting up. A lot of strange tectonic activity going on. I strongly recommend that you watch Dutch Sense, DUTCHSINSE, for really good information on tectonic movements. And then I recommend that you watch Suspicious Observer. That's one more thing I wanted to show you was, let me see, present video file, no, share screen. And let's see if I can't find my Wendy. There we go. So every morning, I showed you that nuke map type of a thing. And, I said that's the prevailing winds that are for the fallout prediction. So if you look down here, down right about here is where San Antonio is. So it's right above Friday the 16th here. And so that's San Antonio. So if that nuke were to go off today, notice how the prevailing winds right now are carrying it over Johnson City, Marble Falls, and away from Round Rock. Okay, here's Round Rock. And so I am not going to be affected by a nuke going off in Houston. That's going to go straight north. San Antonio is going to go northwest. So even Austin, if they hit it, then I'll probably get a little bit up here in Round Rock because it's going to be prevailing coming from south to north. But we're a little bit east northeast of Austin. So I check this every morning, and then if there's any kind of an alert, I also go to it and check it and make sure that things are going to be okay that way as well. So I would recommend that you add that one to your list of ones you're going to visit on a regular basis. I don't know if they have that for Australia or not, Jack, but you could try it and see if it does. That's it. Campy Flaggery. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. And remember that we're going to be Monday night, and Monday night we're going to be doing the drawing. I've got 5 gifts I'll be giving away. And so remember that when you donate, 60% goes, 30% goes to the Caring Place, which is our county food bank. 30% goes to St. Vincent de Paul, which is given to our neighbors so that they can pay their rent, their electric bills, gasoline, anything they need because they're in a current state of need. The other 40% goes for things like shipping and purchasing products for gifts, for thanking you for helping me get to 5,000. And now we're off to 25,000. I'll have to show you, Manny. Yes, I have a 5-liter EMP bag that I have my GMRS FRS. One of my solar chargers, the one I could not find when I was talking the other day about solar chargers, that's in my EMP bag. I don't have a ham radio as far as a transceiver. I'm trying to find out what would be the best one to get it. I just bought this one I showed you the other day, and this will be in my haul video Saturday. But this was marked down significantly on Amazon, and I had been watching it, and I got it. This was recommended in the book by John Jacob Schmidt as a good HF shortwave receiver. And I bought it, and then I went to a site yesterday looking for best ham radios, and they said that the best receiver for shortwave is that radio. So it just turns out it's about $150 right now, $150, $160. But it's rated the #1 HF receiver, and it's dual mode as far as power. I mean, there's all kinds of good things to it. So that's I'll have to get something to protect that as far as EMP. I am in the process of getting ready to get, and I'm an affiliate, to do the whole house EMP and to get my truck EMP'd. So EMP protective devices from EMP Shield. So, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's basically where we are. Numbers chapter 6, verse 24, 25, and 26. Let's see what we can do with that. And that says, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you, and the Lord be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So remember, we're all in this together so that we can share with each other. And, togetherness is going to be the key. That's how it's going to get us through. So please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. Take care, everybody. I'll see you Monday night. Bye-bye.